NANOOS. But I'm going to start off with this first talk, which is why are we here? And I'll actually end with that thought towards the end of the presentation. Here's what I'm going to talk about. What is IUS? Its vision, the structure, the components, some drivers and examples. What are the payoffs and outcomes which have already been realized and which are certainly to be realized in the future? And then finally, again, based on that, why we are here. I begin with the vision. IUS has as its vision these 7 goals to be satisfied by one system, from climate, maritime operations, improving forecasts of natural hazards and their mitigation, improving national defense and homeland security, minimizing public health risks, preserving and restoring healthy marine ecosystems, and sustaining living marine resources. All of that to be supported by the data and products of one system. In that context, IUS has both a regional and a federal footprint. The federal takes care of the global aspects of this for us. The regional takes care of the coastal. That allows for both local connection and connectivity with regional stakeholders and building an entrained and educated constituency, while it also ensures national consistency. As Laura mentioned, we have this regional presence is via 11 regional associations, kind of liaised with by a National Federation of Regional Associations. In this area, the regional association is NANOOS, and also federal agencies also contribute to IUS, and all of this is managed, at least by the RAN, by the NOAA IUS office. These are the 11 regional associations around the country. Laura mentioned AUS up in Alaska, and here in the Pacific Northwest, we are NANOOS. All of these regional associations are coordinated nationally by the U.S. IUS office, and we're pleased today that the director of the U.S. IUS office has joined us. Stanka Willis, would you please raise your hand or stand up for us? Thank you, my friend, for coming here today to see this. There are also some 19 federal partners that are also engaged at various levels of effort with this IUS system, and we're so pleased. And I personally thank you, Laura, for your strong endorsement of IUS from the National Weather Service. That was wonderful to hear. IUS itself is a system of systems consisting of observations, distributed data management and communications, modeling, analysis, and products, education and outreach, and again, stressing the fact that all of those are prioritized and driven by our users. Graphically, this is what it looks like on the bottom, are all the various ways of observations themselves, which are seamlessly stitched together by a data management and communication system, again with national consistency and regional flavor. Modeling and analysis systems to ingest, as Rob mentioned, are going to be inherently sparse data, extended spatially and temporally with models and then putting out products. And then the various IUS products and services at the end, tailored or driven by the user community itself. Just going through that listing, observations is a plethora of various types: aviation-borne, satellite-borne, ship-borne, buoys, gliders, coastal radars, and the like make up just some of the various ways that data is acquired for the IUS enterprise. Then once you get the zeros and ones off an electronic measurement system, it's turned into some geophysical parameter. Those are then quality controlled and put into various types of products via the data management and communication systems that delivers the data to users. And finally, we have a strong component of education and outreach because, first of all, the necessity of an informed constituency to drive this process forward both nationally and regionally is paramount, and we need to make sure that our children are fully informed about the necessity of having a competent ocean observing system for them and their children. Looking at some of the drivers that drive this, I'm just going to go through some examples. I'm going to go high level to specificity. Marine operations, which is a powerful component in the Pacific Northwest. We are a maritime region of the country with strong connections to the global economy and the Pacific Rim via ocean trade. IUS and the data promotes safe and efficient marine operations, supports Coast Guard search and rescue, and informs offshore energy planning and operations. Looking at some examples, the Coast Guard clearly has a need for quality data and prognostic data for search and rescue operations. Some of those data come from high-frequency phased array radars on the coast, and Oregon has a very excellent example of that run out of Oregon State with Mike Cosrow. And then taking those data and ingesting in the various types of models that can then be utilized on a regional scale to provide products, in this case, for wave danger or search and rescue operations. Climate, the same kind of thing. The Integrated Ocean Observing System serves to support the regional climate status and trends. Why is that? Because climate change in an ocean sense is going to impact humans as a species where the ocean meets humans, and that's in the coastal regions. We also provide national climate experts with our regional measurements and provide coastal communities with more accurate estimates of trends. As an example, with climate change, marine ecosystems are highly sensitive to climate variation. An example of, I guess I would say, collaboration. We can use various types of ocean acidification sensors on, I will call them buoys of opportunity, and certainly in NANOOS, the collaboration with PMEL is an excellent example of that. And then taking those types of data out and again, extending them spatially and temporally so that a region can understand the connections and the teleconnections between its local environment and what happens on the global scales. Ecosystems, fisheries, and water quality, what do we do there? Certainly we're there to minimize potential harm from harmful algal blooms, hypoxia, both regional threats here on the West Coast, as is ocean acidification. That data can support ecosystem-based management. It can support the protection of drinking water supplies. Part of the thing we're talking about here, of course, is that the Great Lakes is part of this national IU system, and it can also assist public health officials and others via easy access to data access. As an example, speaking of drinking water, some 40 million people depend on the Great Lakes for their drinking water supply, and the Great Lakes are part of this enterprise. So what do we do there? Well, we have various water quality monitoring buoys that can measure water quality both in the Great Lakes and in our coastal oceans. And then we can put out products, here looking at something like a red tide or a harmful algal bloom, all of which are informed and enabled by the IUS system, that is, data to communications to products to put out a warning for people. Coastal hazards, clearly we are well aware of that. What has happened in Japan, and then the implications and the actions of the tsunami here on our West Coast. But for coastal hazards, we support the Coast Guard against search and rescue, as well as promote safe and efficient operations and warn people about this type of thing. We're here on the West Coast, clearly the impact of ocean waves, winter storms, and the gradual erosion of this has a profound effect on lives and property. IUS can go out and actually measure changes in that and then model the impact of local waves or distant waves from a tsunami. Here's an example of NANOOS where you'll hear more about this later, where those types of data can be made available to the public in easily accessible forms, and this is clearly a life or death kind of product as far as its implications are concerned. Coastal and marine spatial planning, get to the end of these drivers if I might. Again, supporting all of these kinds of different operations to, in this case, inform offshore energy planning and operations, which will allow for multiple uses of a marine environment while minimizing potential conflicts. Observations here on the East Coast using AUVs and ROVs to survey the actual oceanic environment, and then put together a product like this, which allows various users to access via GIS technologies where the different types of legitimate utility or utilization of the marine environment are best suited for, in this case, wind energy extraction on the coast. All of that was a very rapid flyby of what I hope will be increasingly clear for the rest of the day of what the payoffs of IUS are, why you are in fact here today. This allows for increased efficiencies of data access. It provides local connections with national coordination. There's a tremendous amount of leveraging. You'll hear more of that in Jan's talk in a minute, as well as providing linkage of existing assets into this system, much along the lines of what Rob was talking about, one-stop shopping, where it doesn't really matter where those data are coming from. The outcomes that we are aiming for here are to improve the economy first of us as a nation and hopefully the world by unlocking the economic potential and business benefits of the ocean. Safety, as I mentioned here a couple of times, to help ensure our citizens' safety, security, both on the coast as well as at sea, and environment. IUS and the data therefrom is key to protecting our environment for future generations. Looking at the economy here, just some examples of how IUS can do that. Shipping routes, from the global sense, the teleconnections between the ENSO monitoring and the Parada monitoring arrays in the Pacific have a direct impact on the long-term seasonal trends for people in Iowa who need to know whether they should plant cotton or soybeans that year. Those are driven by the interconnectivity of our planet. Offshore energy facilities can be best facilitated by these data, and certainly things like tourism and marine recreation, if you've got those kind of economic drivers, they'll also depend on accurate and timely data. The environment seems to be fairly self-explanatory, but just quickly, we need to understand what the impacts of climate change are. There are, in fact, insults to the environment, as Laura mentioned, such as Deepwater Horizon. We need to know where those trajectories are going to go. Even things like groundings here in the Columbia Bar, wherein tidal heights and density differences have a profound impact on the decisions of when to cross that particular stretch of water to prevent grounding of very large tankers going into Portland, as well as that last one here, toxic algal blooms, again, a powerful problem on our coastal regions and now, unfortunately, making its way into some of our urbanized estuaries out here in the Pacific Northwest. Safety, obviously better weather. Laura did a superb job in explaining how understanding the ocean environment, the heat engine of the planet, enables better weather predictions, including hazardous weather. Search and rescue clearly are going to be benefited by having accurate data. And on a homeland security or national security, IUS is part of the common operational picture that's going to make sense to military and Coast Guard people, but just understand it's necessary. The environment is a venue through which all the other information passes. So, finally, why are we here? We're here to educate and inform you, and to be educated and informed by you. Especially important today is those of you who have not yet been part of this enterprise. Thank you for coming. It's important that you're part of this. We need to hear from the users, as I mentioned earlier, both to understand what they're doing and how we're doing is helping them, as well as what we need to do it better. That has a secondary benefit to us. To those of you who are not yet trained in this process, I want you to hear today how important it is to us that we are, in fact, user-driven. And finally, for those agencies, state, local, tribal, and federal, and their regional components, if you're not yet engaged with us here in the Northwest, please do so. And do so by understanding that by becoming part of this colloquium, this collaborative enterprise, we can increase the efficiency of your operations, we can increase the economy of how you do business, and we can do this in a collaborative fashion by leveraging what already exists. Thank you very much. This has been the overview.